It has been about 2 months since China announced a complete restructuring of its telecom sector. The changes are expected to be completed in about half a year. Well, shares of the major telco players jumped when the news was first announced, but since then they've suffered about double-digit losses, with China Telecom losing as much as 25%. Here to talk about the outlook for the sector is Duncan Clark. He's chairman of consultancy BDA China. He joins us now from Hong Kong as well. Duncan, good to see you again. Listen, the changes, the sweeping reforms that they announced for the telco sector seem quite ambitious. When you break it down into the moving parts, though, are they achievable, you think?
Yeah, well, the move was long overdue and long expected. China had 6 operators, although really only 4 that were of any scale. And they needed to really get the number down to what's seen as the right number, which is 3, offering both fixed and mobile services. So they've done that with this restructuring. And so now we're basically looking to see how the card's going to fall for each of these 3 operators.
We've seen the stock price, though, sort of falling back since the announcements were made, Duncan. And I know you don't actually look at the share price or anything, but in terms of competitiveness of each of these mobile carriers in China, or telcos, I should say, which ones are best positioned to grab onto these new opportunities?
Well, obviously, China Mobile is in theory, the safest play because it has such a huge share of the market. In the mobile market, over 70% now, around 70% of the market, still gaining around 80% of the subs. The delay in the restructuring has helped it as it's sort of gorged on the sector with the uncertainty that its rival China Unicom faced. Now that uncertainty has been removed in the sense that Unicom has one network, it's going with the GSM, will upgrade to WCDMA. There's more clarity for Unicom, but there's still a lot of integration issues to face that company as they merge the teams of the former Netcom with their own teams. And the lesson learned from the previous restructuring way back was it takes a long time in China to deal with these internal issues. So we're a little bit cautious on China Unicom to go through that process. Conversely, and you mentioned China Telecom has fallen a lot, but we'd like Chairman Wang Xiaoqu from China Telecom. He's really the guy who built China Mobile up before he was moved over. So we like that company. Also, that it's focused now. It's got the CDMA asset, which has some challenges, but it's actually pushing very aggressively now to push that towards 3G.
Yeah, and a lot of this depends on their ability to rein in China Mobile's dominance of the mobile phone space or that market there. How are they going to do this?
Well, I mean, China Mobile, to one extent, has a big challenge with this TD-SCDMA, which is the domestic 3G technology. I mean, it's aimed to be a global technology, but it's really only being deployed right now by one operator in China. So it has a limited supply of vendors and chipset and other sort of ecosystem, as we say, players. So TD-SCDMA is going very, very slow. We've only seen real commercial users of a few thousand. They say, you know, 50-something thousand, including all the ones they give away. And so many people have said, well, China Mobile is basically has this albatross of domestic 3G. However, if you take a longer-term view, I mean, the world is moving on beyond 3 and 3.5G, to use the boring industry terminology, towards something called LTE, which is the long-term evolution. This may be a way out for China Mobile to migrate its TD-SCDMA network into something really where the rest of the world is heading. So this is where the focus is. Can China Mobile deploy enough of this TD-SCDMA to keep the nationalists happy, to say that they're supporting Chinese technology, but actually prepare for the next battle, which is into the world of 4G? I'm sorry to move on to more analogies, but that's acronyms. That's where we're heading.
Okay. One of the things that's been unclear so far, then, is that in light of all this restructuring, what is the role of the foreign telco in China? Does this, to some extent, or in any way at all, I should say, allow foreigners greater participation in China's telco market?
In theory, yes. I mean, right now we have Vodafone has its stake in China Mobile of 3%. We have both Telefonica from Spain in Netcom and SK Telecom in Unicom. So basically, we need to see how that's going to fall out, who's going to end up with what asset there. But China Telecom is the one of the remaining telcos that has no foreign suitor or partner. So this is an opportunity for China to win some goodwill, perhaps in the U.S. election year. You know, there is no U.S. name there, so perhaps that's one possibility. Perhaps, you know, people have speculated about Singtel and others. The reality is we don't see a majority or controlling stake in any of these companies, of course. China doesn't really need the money, but it may need some of the goodwill in terms of its trade relations, or also the international expansion of these companies. They have all ambitions to go overseas. So far, we've seen only limited steps. We've seen China Mobile in Pakistan with a small deal. You know, maybe there could be a Middle Eastern player coming in. You know, there could be some interesting plays for China Telecom, maybe getting 2 partners in. But it's China Telecom is really the prime candidate at this point.
Okay, Duncan, good to see you again. Thanks for joining us today. Duncan Clark, chairman of consultancy BDA China, joining us there from Hong Kong. Okay, we are about to go into the second hour of CNBC's Cash, where we have the latest installment of our special series on the upcoming Beijing Olympics, now less than a month away. This week, we're going to look at how Chinese companies are hoping to use the games to